Hello, welcome to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to continue our talk with our newly ordained deacons, and today I have Eulis Simien, one of the newest deacons in the diocese with me, and it's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming in.
It's my pleasure to be here.
You know, as we've been interviewing the different, and I don't want to say interview, it's more of a conversation with the new deacons. They're all so excited about having finished all that 5 years of classwork. I think it's so awesome what you guys have been through. So
it's a grind, but it's enjoyable. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, no question about that. But we learned so much, and we're able during that time period to develop not just intellectually, but much beyond that.
Right. So tell our folks a little bit about yourself. Are you from Baton Rouge, or tell us a little bit about yourself?
I actually grew up in Lake Charles. I'm a Lake Charles native, and you know what my city has been through the last couple of years. But,
breaks your heart, huh?
Yeah, it does. When the recent hurricane was coming, I said, anywhere but Lake Charles.
Yeah, amen on that.
But that's where I grew up.
And grew up Catholic. Tell us your story.
Yeah, I was somewhat of a cradle Catholic. And I say somewhat of a cradle Catholic because as a little child, I was born into a Catholic family, but my family kind of strayed away a little bit.
A lot of us.
For a while. But fortunately, when I was about 11 years old, we started coming back. And so I'm here now.
Well, that's good. So when did you move to Baton Rouge?
I moved to Baton Rouge in 1978 when I first started law school.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's the year I got out of the Navy. So you started law school the day I got out. So that's pretty cool. So you came to Baton Rouge to go to law school and stayed?
Came to LSU, met my wife there. That's where we met. She's from New Orleans. I'm from Lake Charles. As they say in New Orleans, we thought this was good neutral ground.
I love it. The neutral grounds. I'm from New Orleans too originally. So that's where I'm from. So practicing law, see billboards. I mean, I know you got a very successful professional practice, and at some point, something had to draw you to the deacon. Now, I remember those discernment meetings they had, information. I remember seeing you at one of those early on.
Yeah.
So tell us about that part. What pulled you toward it?
It's actually something that I'd been thinking about for quite some time, but because of my practice was and still is very active, but I've gotten some more help since then. I didn't really feel like I had the time to do it, to give it the thought that I needed to give to it. But then about 6 years ago, something came to me and said, now is the time. Had been thinking about it for a while, but something drew me and said, now's the time. And fortunately I did, because when I went, I just made it, because you can't be more than 60 when you start. I mean, they can probably draw some exceptions to that, but generally they want you to start no later than 60. And I was bumping up on 60 at the time. So
That's interesting. So I remember when they changed the program, because of course I went through the old program, and actually I taught the last class that did at the OA. I taught some of those guys. I taught some of the classes. And I remember when they were talking about this, because I was just finishing up my master's, and I was thinking that I might be called to come teach some of these classes, but y'all have a whole bunch of better professors at Fran U, because you have those doctors of theology over there that are phenomenal. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I certainly can't make a comparison because I don't know what the old program was like, but I can tell you about the new program. It's tremendous. Not only are the people there extremely knowledgeable, they're doctorates in theology, but they're so committed to their faith. It just oozes out of them. You can just see it and realize it when you're in the classroom. And of course, they know the stuff that we need to learn backwards and forwards. And they not only know it, but they know how to communicate it and share it with others. So it was a tremendous experience for me.
So I remember talking to Dr. Whitten, and he was talking about, we're going to do this is what we're going to do. And to see that it's happening is pretty phenomenal, you know?
Yeah.
So when you go to school there, are you like in the regular student body? I mean, you with the kids? I mean, what's that like? I see that smile.
I can tell you some stories, but we'll save that for another day. But no, yes and no. Again, Our classes are focused on theology classes, and there are some of the regular undergraduate students in those, but in every class I was in, even if there were some of the undergraduate students, we were the predominant ones in the class because of our focus.
So was it just your class, or was it other classes of deacons? How does, you know what I'm saying?
The course of study is 5 years,
Right.
and so each year there's
a number that starts.
that start each year, and so it
And
goes
so,
on.
so your group stayed together. You didn't have any of the other groups join you for any of the classes.
For some of the classes, what we started doing towards the last year or so is we would combine some of the other groups in together. Like in my last year, we took some classes with the first class that went into the new system, which was a class ahead of mine. So we took some classes with them in the last year.
Yeah, because I know when I went to law school at night, the classes they ran them every other year, so you had two groups
Right.
together, you know, and so there's a way to mathematically work that out, so they don't have to offer every class every year.
And they're starting to do that at FRANU, and I think it's going to work out better. One, it gives more people in the classroom, so more interaction, without making it too big, because, I mean, there's 5 to 7 of us in a particular class. So even if a couple of students join in, we put 2 together, you're still less than 20 people.
Right.
So it's small enough to where you can have good interaction.
That's interesting. So the classes are at night, or how's it work?
It depends. When I first started, they were on Saturday mornings and Monday nights. And we did that for about 3 or 4 years. And then in the 3rd or 4th year, it switched to where it was only at night. We weren't doing the Saturday mornings anymore.
That was good. You got your weekend free. No, but it wasn't free because you had to study.
This is true. But I can tell you a quick story about that if you like.
Yeah, for sure.
My wife knew that I was really committed to this when we went to one of the first discernment sessions, and they told us that the classes were going to be on Saturday mornings. And I'm an avid LSU football fan. I don't just mean watching on TV. I traveled. I'd go to most of the away games, and she turned to me and said, "You're not going to be able to go to the away games." I said, "I know," and she said, "That's what told me I knew. I knew you were ready."
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So, I've had Father Jamin and had him on talking about it, and I've had a lot of conversations. And it seems to me, from my perspective, that it's not just the academic part, that there's this whole development of your mind, body, and spirit that goes into this.
Definitely, and that's what I was getting at earlier about how it's the 5 years. It's a great academic environment, great learning, but it's a lot more to it than that. We get to interact with some really great people who are great examples of how you not only teach the faith, not only how you learn the faith, but how you live the faith. The professors at FRANU are tremendous, and the other people that are in the classes are all great guys.
So when you for the people that are not real familiar, when we talk about, well, we had to take theology classes. Well, when I was growing up, we called it religion class. Tell us about some of the classes that you had to take.
Well, theology classes was one of them, and it was obviously broken down into different topics in the area of theology, how you teach others, how some of it was historical in nature, studying the Old Testament, studying the New Testament. But all of it was integrated towards ultimately getting to the point of not only just learning the stuff, but getting to the point where we could live it so that we'd be an example for the other people and could communicate some of that to others who may come to us. It was wonderful.
So was there, I'm sure you must have had some sort of spiritual development, like retreats or stuff like that you had to go through. You must have had a lot of that too.
We would have at least one, we'd have a retreat per year where we would go. COVID knocked one of those out. But other than that, we would have an annual retreat. And plus we would get together outside of the class, and we'd do the Liturgy of the Hours. And our group would get together whenever we were together in the evenings and do our evening prayers together. It's I've made some great friendships in that process, but some great people to be with.
That's awesome. That, a couple of your classmates have already been on, and they all said the same thing. Like, these are like brothers for life.
True.
There's a bond that just develops over the years because you've been through so much together.
Yeah. Not to mention, we all had to get accustomed to being back in the classroom again. That was a big adjustment. For me, it had been years and years. Now, as you might know, I was a law professor at LSU throughout all my professional life. I did it full time, but it was different being on this side of the podium than being on the other side of the podium.
I know how that is. I know exactly how that is. So did they, this is just curiosity, was it more like college classes where you get a lot of tests, or did you have to write a lot of papers, or for us, it was mostly papers?
Mostly papers, not a lot. There were some tests, particularly in the early years, but it was mostly writing papers, mostly discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I think what they were trying to get us to do was articulate what we were learning so that we could articulate it after the fact when we were ordained. So I guess y'all had the same kind of thing.
Same thing. It's one thing to be able to memorize some stuff and put it on a test answer, but quite a different thing to be able to articulate it, as you say, to communicate it to someone else.
Right. Because communication is a big part of what we do after we're ordained in a lot of different forms. Did you... When you were in formation and you had retreats and all that kind of stuff, did you find yourself being drawn closer and closer to participate in your parish and different things like that?
Yeah, I don't know about closer and closer participating in the parish because I was pretty active before. But I certainly found myself getting closer to God.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no question about that part of it. I mean, it became much more of a central part of my life and how I began to interact with other people. And as you know, I have a personal injury business. And so sometimes people come to me and they're not in the best situations and because they're dealing with some tragedy in their life. And I found that as I was going through this development, it helped me to be able to better understand how to communicate with them and how to direct them towards putting God in their life at that time. So,
yeah, it's an awkward thing being a lawyer and a deacon, and maybe we'll talk about that later. One of the things that I'd like to do is we're going to take a short break in a few seconds, and then when we come back, I want to talk about as you were approaching ordination, what that was like, what was ordination like, and where you are now, those kind of things. So we'll cover a lot of that after the break, okay?
All right.
So we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We're talking to Eulis Simien, Deacon Eulis. I love that. When you preface it, you put things into perspective. One of our newest deacons in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you promise respect and obedience to me and my successors?
I do.
May God, who has begun the good work in you, bring it to fulfillment.
I taught for over 50 years, and I had to quit because my hearing was not as good as it should be, and I didn't want the children to catch on that I couldn't hear them.
Many senior Catholic sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for years with little pay. Today, religious communities do not have enough retirement savings.
Most of them didn't even see the money that they earned because it went into the common pot. Healthcare is important for everyone and expensive. The costs just keep rising.
Your tax-deductible gift to the Retirement Fund for Religious helps provide medications, nursing care, and more.
I feel that God is still taking good care of me at 91 years old.
Thank you so much for helping us take care of our sisters.
Thank you, and God bless you 100-fold.
Donate at your local parish.
We are the fog on your glasses. We are the cup to go at breakfast. We are the answer to your deadline. We are closing the deal. But more than anything, we are never being out of coffee ever again. Never. We are River Road Coffees, and we're ready to prove that our coffee is better than whatever coffee you're drinking at the office. Call us today for a side-by-side taste test so you can get powered by River Road Coffees.
Welcome back to Catholic Life. So glad that you stayed with us through the break. You know, we ordained some new deacons a few months ago, and we've had a couple of them on, and today I have Deacon Eulis Simien, another lawyer. I think I had one other lawyer on, I think Glenn, yeah, and he's with a big firm or something, if I recall. But it's interesting to talk to the deacons generally because they're so excited after their ordination, but to talk to them that were lawyers before and see the transformation is really, really interesting, and I feel it from your heart as you talk to me. So, one of the things that I did want to ask you about, have you felt how God has taken your talent and skills that you used to deploy in one area and put them over here?
Well, I think God does that with all of us. All we have to do is open ourselves up to Him to allow that to happen.
Right.
Because He's not going to make us do anything, but He does use the talents and the skills that we had. And certainly, as a lawyer, I was someone that had to be on my feet all the time, be ready to respond, to deal with issues and tragedies. Mm-hmm. But He's taught me how to do it in a little bit different way. Mm-hmm. A big different way.
Yeah, and I know, the communication skills that you have to communicate with clients and then to communicate in court. And now you have to communicate with people you're ministering to, and you have to do homilies. And so it's kind of like you pull that stuff together in a different forum.
It's certainly, the background is definitely helpful, but I think more helpful than the background is the inspiration that God gives me to be able to use it.
So let's talk about that. So you had to go through COVID, and so that really, really adversely affected the normality of going through the program. As you were getting close to ordination, if I remember, y'all got delayed, right? Because of
we got delayed, but it wasn't because of COVID. Our real reason for getting delayed was Michael Parker. And I'm not faulting Michael. We love Michael, and we were glad to do it. But Michael was too young to be ordained.
You had to wait for his
We
birthday.
had to wait for him to make 34 because you have to be 35 to be ordained a deacon, but the bishop can dispense with 1 year of that requirement. So we had to wait for Michael to become 34.
That's interesting. That is fun. But you did have COVID the last course year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So. It had a tremendous impact on the way we did things. Even our homiletics class, we had to start off by doing it via Zoom, which wasn't really working that well. So we just, I hope I'm not getting anybody in trouble, we just decided.
Broke the rules.
I wouldn't say we broke the rules, but we're a small group. We've distanced from each other, and we just got together.
I know, I'm just teasing. Just teasing. So, as you get closer to the end and ordination's getting a little closer, tell us about that excitement, that anticipation that was going on inside you and spiritually also.
I would tell you the first time it hit me was Father Jamin, who was the director of the program, is infamous for these color-coded calendars that he uses. The first time it really hit me is when he sent us the color-coded calendar for the last year, and I looked at it, and at that time it was scheduled for June because we didn't know we'd run into this problem with Michael. And I saw June 12, 2021 ordination. It hit me. This is real. This is really happening. Now, we ended up getting ordained in August because of what we talked about earlier, but it was like, I can't even describe the feeling that came over me. Yeah.
So from my experience was I was never called to be a deacon. I was called to the process, and that's a whole nother story. And so the whole time I was in the process, I never looked at ordination, and I never focused on it. I never thought I would ever be ordained because I was in a process. And even the week before ordination, I expected to get one of those letters that says, "You're not called at this time to work," because that's not where my focus was. But I had done all the stuff that you do. You buy your album, you buy your vestments, I did all that stuff. But one of the questions that they asked, I'm sure you had a lot of interviews, right?
Oh, yeah.
We had tons of interviews. And one of them said, "So what do you think it's going to be like at ordination? How's it, And I mouthed off some answer. I don't even remember. My wife elbowed me and said, "They're talking about grace." Could have had a V8. I went, "Oh." the grace of ordination. Were you anticipating it, or did you just get it?
I just got it. I did not anticipate it. It was, I had a feeling that came over me. When I knelt down and the bishop put his hands on my head, I could just physically feel a transformation.
Now, you know he never touched your head.
He may not have, but I thought
No.
he did.
I felt he did.
Yeah.
Same me. I got a picture of it. And Bishop Munch's hands are not touching my head, but I'm going to tell you, he touched my head. Something happened, and you felt it.
I felt it.
You need to go back and look at that picture.
I will. I'm gonna look at the video.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I have kind of a weird feeling right now inside of me, just remembering it.
You want such goosebumps on my hand right
Yeah,
now?
you got them.
Yeah.
Eulis, it's like, we talk about sanctifying grace through the sacraments, and we get it every time we receive a sacrament.
Yeah.
But when you go through that sacrament and a descendant of one of the apostles lays hands on you, whew,
Yeah.
I mean, you must have felt something.
It took me totally by surprise, the feeling that came over me at that point. It really did.
I remember, just a little aside, when we prostrated ourselves down, my wife's sister was sitting, her husband was in a wheelchair, so they were kind of in that little, in a cathedral where that is, and she went, "Oh my God, they're laying down." She did it loud, everybody could hear her.
Well,
That's another part with the litany.
yeah, I'll tell you a little secret about that for me. I actually practiced to make sure I'd be able to get up.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. That's still a hard thing. And so you haven't been through a Lent yet,
No.
have you? Okay.
No.
So when on Good Friday, you're going to do it again.
Yeah, I know. Well, at least this time I know I can get up.
That's awesome. So that day happens. Of course, your wife's with you, your family's with you. You go through the ceremony, and I didn't have a chance to be there this year for you guys, and that's on me. But I can only imagine that as you were processing out, you were feeling something very special.
Yeah, certainly. And my family was there. Actually, two of my daughters participated. One was a cantor, and the other sang in the choir. So that
Wow.
was very special for me.
That is special.
And my wife and the rest of my family were there. And just lots of people to wish us well and support us, which is totally different from last year when you could hardly have anyone
Yeah,
come,
okay.
So it was wonderful.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And so when you walked out, did somebody run up to you and ask for a blessing?
I don't think that day, but it wasn't long after that. In fact, well, I'll tell you what I did that night. My wife and I say evening prayers together. And as a deacon, I could now bless her at the end of the evening prayer. So I gave her a blessing that night.
That is awesome. You know what I remember one time, and I wasn't a deacon, I was in formation, I guess, and Deacon Zeke, I don't know if you know Deacon Zeke.
Yeah.
So Zeke, we used to have a prayer meeting at Our Lady of Mercy once a month. It was kind of from Manresa, and we did it once a month, and then afterwards we would go to Frank's. Well, one day we're at Frank's having breakfast, and Deacon Zeke came and gave us a blessing. That was the first time it ever struck me that the deacons can give the blessings,
Yeah.
And so I walked out of ordination, and one of the other deacons came down and knelt down and said, "Give me a blessing." And I hadn't prepared. I hadn't learned it. You don't have to learn it.
Right,
But I made one up for him, and it was a shocker, So look, that was ordination, and I know you had your assignments and all this kind of stuff. So tell us where you are now and what you're doing.
Well, during the entire 5 years that I was studying, I can't tell you how many times I heard, "You're never going to be assigned back to your home parish." So I'm expecting we're going to be assigned someplace else. I get a call that said, "You're going back to Sacred Heart." I said, "Are you talking to the wrong person?" They kept telling me we're not going back to our home parish. But they assigned me back to Sacred Heart, which is my home parish.
So that is awesome. So that's Father Miles.
Yes.
And Father Miles and I go way back. So
Great pastor.
He is awesome. And so you kind of replaced Deacon David Dawson, who's now Father David Dawson.
Actually, we have another deacon there.
Okay.
Deacon Eulis is there,
Oh, yeah,
so
okay.
we're both there right now.
Yeah, he moved from St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Over there. So that's
Right.
good. So you have two deacons.
We have two deacons now.
Well, that's good. So what does Father Miles have you doing these days?
Mostly liturgical things. I got to work my way into getting some of the stuff that Deacon Eulis is currently doing. But right now, I'm mostly doing liturgical. Like this morning, I helped at the school mass for the kids, and I have a granddaughter who's in school there, so that's pretty special.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is
She
great.
has a certain little look as she comes up for communion because she comes up on my side that you can tell she's taking it seriously, but thinking, that's my grandpa.
She's proud of her grandpa.
Probably so.
That's awesome. So, and don't y'all have like another assignment?
Yes, I'm also assigned to the district council for St. Vincent de Paul.
Oh, cool.
Which is tremendous for me because St. Vincent de Paul in the conference level, for those who know the difference between district level and the conference level, conferences at an individual church, was a ministry that I was tremendously involved in before my ordination and before I began my studies. So it's great.
Yeah, so I've had Michael Acaldo here many times. We're buds. We go way back.
He's done tremendous work for our district council here.
Yeah, he's a remarkable person. So where do you see things going from here? We got about another minute. Tell us what you hope your life is like as a deacon.
Well, I hope to continue to develop, to get better at being there for the people that need me, because that's what I think it should be all about. It should be all about, deacon means servant, loose translation of it, but it's about serving the people within our community, which is something I like to do in all of the things I'm involved in. So I hope to better learn how to do that, to be available to people. It's going to be a lifelong learning process, I'm sure.
Never stop learning.
No.
Never stop learning. So it's a blessing for us to have you as a deacon in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. And on behalf of the diocese and the deacons, thank you for accepting the call and going through that arduous process and doing what you did to get where you are. Thank you very much.
It's been more of a blessing for me than I'll ever bestow on the diocese or the people, because it has meant a tremendous change in my life, and just wonderful.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And God bless you for staying with us through the program. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation with one of our newest deacons, and we hope to have the rest of them on later. And so stay with us. We'll have another show for you next week. And until then, God bless.
Receive the gospel of Christ, whose herald you have become. Believe what you read, teach what you believe, and practice what you teach.